finally getting into some hatchback action. Got the car pulled in here. So what we're doing is I've got another engine. Got a k24z7 in here, and I'm going back to a k20a2, which I have here. So the first thing I got to do obviously is get the k24 out. So I went ahead and made a little bit of progress already. I'll show you what I got. First, I pulled the bumper off so I could get to the battery, so I could disconnect the battery. It's probably so dead it wouldn't make a difference, but get that disconnected. Next, I went ahead and got the harness undone. A lot of this I'm gonna go through and clean up some of this stuff, redo a few things on it. Went ahead and pulled the exhaust out. So yeah, so next I'm gonna start draining some fluids. Drain the coolant, transmission, the gear oil. Probably go ahead and drain the engine oil as well, even though we don't have to pull the engine out. The engine is getting disassembled, so I'll just go ahead and pull it now, drain it out now. That way we're completely free of any fluids. Once we get that done, we'll unhook the fuel system, you know, and do the radiator hoses. Then we'll have to jack the car up, get the suspension out so we can pull the axles. Once we do that, oh yeah, pull the shift linkages. Once we do that, the only thing left to do is pop the axles out, undo the mounts, and pull the engine out. So go ahead and get started on it. First, let's pull our throttle cable. So the reason we're changing engines is I put the Z7 in because I hadn't seen anyone do it at the time, several years back, and got the engine cheap, and no wonder, because it had its problems. But I got it running. I've done kind of what I wanted to do with it, not completely, but to the point where I was like, well, I got this A2 over here and seems to be in a lot better shape, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop it in and get the car running better. Got some turbo stuff coming that I ordered, just gotta wait for it to get built. But anyway, so yeah, so next let's disconnect our shift linkages. You got a pin, they'll slide out, pull these retainers, and then you'll be able to pull the whole cables out. Also, while I'm doing the swap, I'm just going to clean up some things and delete some things we don't need. Also, we'll be retaining a lot of things off this engine. Some of them we'll have to modify for the A2. Cables out of the way. Tuck them up in here so they don't get damaged. Just got a few Allen keys here. Might get a little bit of fuel spillage, but this car hadn't turned it over in so long, I don't really anticipate there being much fuel up here. shims out. Undo some of these clamps so I can slide this over. Really tight here. Okay, also got to disconnect this line going to our slave cylinder. Well, I'm not going to disconnect the line. I'm going to unbolt the slave cylinder, and again I'm just going to let it hang over here to the side. Okay, so we unbolt our slave. Let's see, you got our shift linkages out of the way, fuel rail. Like I said, I just laid everything over here to the side. So I'm going to pull the engine, even though I'm not replacing the transmission, I'm going to pull the engine and transmission together. The reason being, this engine and transmission combo is so wide compared to what originally came in this car that there's really not much room to separate it. Like if I want to leave the transmission in, if I wanted to pull the engine, there's really not enough room between the timing cover, valve cover, and the passenger side strut tower to be able to move the engine over far enough to get the clutch and everything to clear the bell housing. So there might be some ways you can finagle it and make it work, but it's really not worth the time. It's really not any more extra work. It's probably easier, really, to take it in and out as one. But that's what I'm going to do. Take it in and out as one. Then I'll separate it, put this one on the stand. Then we'll have both engines side by side. We'll be able to transfer over whatever we need and get a look at the differences on side by side. Then we'll put everything back, transmission, drop it all in as one. So I physically got everything, you know, oh no, I still gotta take the radiator hoses loose. So I'll take these loose real quick, and then we'll get into pulling the axles. I need to put some new rubber on this here. There you go. There we go. Been on here a little while. I'll be replacing these hoses, so too much matter if they get messed up. Got the fluid drained out. Went ahead and got it on jack stands. I'm going to pull the wheels off. We'll get our axle nuts loose. Then we'll break loose our suspension so we can get the axles actually taken out. Okay, so here's the axle nut. So you got a tab bent here. We have to bend that little tab out. break this loose. It's probably like a 30 or 32 millimeter. Break that loose. Then I'll probably take loose the upper ball joint. That way I can rotate the spindle out of the way enough so we can separate the axle from the transmission, as well as getting it out of the hub assembly. That way we can get these completely out of the way. .32. Okay, luckily ours is nice and loose in here. What I like to do is, whenever you assemble these, because sometimes they'll rust and get stuck, I like to put a little bit of anti-seize on the splines of our axle, so whenever you have to disassemble it, you don't have any trouble. All my suspension's all rusty. This stuff everything was all brand new and nice and clean at one point, but whatever. Anyway, so went ahead and just took this piece out. That way we won't have any trouble getting our axle loose. It's a good idea to keep plenty of these cotter pins on hand when you're working on stuff, because you can buy a whole assorted pack of them pretty cheap. A lot of times when you take these things loose, you bend them or break them, or it's just easier just to use a new one. So I'm probably just gonna cut this one here. Break it loose like that. There we go. So let's see what. It's a 17. Okay, that's loose. So, give it a few good whacks with the old hammer. Right loose. All right, so now I'll show you how to pop the axles out. I'll show you from the top here, but generally I'll do this on the bottom with most cars, because usually you don't have this much open space up top to get to it. But so you got this our passenger side axle, and it's our intermediate shaft. On the other side you'll be just going straight to the transmission, but here you got an intermediate shaft. So all you gotta do is take a 5-bar, it'll pop. Okay, it'll pop loose. There's a snap ring inside that holds it all together, and it'll just pop that loose. And it will come loose. I think it's popped loose. Yeah, it's loose. So that's all there is to it. Made it look harder than it really is, but I mean, you will have some that get stuck, but generally it's not too bad. So pop this out of there, and then this end should slide right out as well. With all the commotion, it had snap back in. But yeah, that's it. That is it. You can see I got some grease on the splines here. I had them on the other end too, so that's why everything came apart so decent. Just peek down the other side. Like I said, the only difference is the other side is not a jack shaft. They're actually going into the transmission, but same exact procedure, except where this side, the part going to the engine, transmission, whatever, was female. On the other one it'll be male on both ends. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get the other side out. We're about ready to get this thing chained up and get the mounts out, and we're ready to pull this thing. So Yeah, very easy to do, man. Gotta love these older Hondas, even with more modern engines, man. They're just so easy to work on. Like, literally, if I just work start to finish, man, an hour had the engine out. So, can't beat that. Progress report here. So we pretty much got everything ready to come out, everything unhooked, all cooling out, all fluids, got the axles out. I did throw the ball joints back together and so I can bolt the wheels on so I can move the car around. But so yeah, the only thing we have to do is unbolt the mounts and yank the engine out. I let someone borrow my engine hoist, so I borrowed this one from the neighbor. But bad thing is I don't have, with my other one I've got a leveler, and so might make it a little more complicated to get this one out. But I'm trying to engineer some straps and things like that to get it secured so we can go ahead and pull it out. Kind of impossible to hurt anything. The engine bay is not really pretty, so scuff some paint up or whatever, doesn't really matter, but see what we can come up with. Okay, so we got the engine supported. It's not an ideal setup, and if you care about scratching your valve cover and all that, it's probably want to look at some alternative methods. But so the only thing we're going to do is unbolt our that mount, the rear mount, and the one on that side. This one I'll probably completely remove, just because of some interference possibilities. But so we'll go ahead and start. We'll start first. I'm gonna put some tension on the hoist, support the weight. Now we'll start banging out these mounts. Okay, and we didn't mess up the hardware, so that's great. So on this one, I'll just pull these two. That should be good enough. Yeah, I'll probably have to go ahead and pull this as well, but go ahead and yank all that stuff out. Probably going to be the same size hardware, I'm assuming. 19, yep. Oh yeah. Okay, let's try and adjust our pressure. Maybe let these bolts come out easier. Quite a bit of pressure on that. Oh yeah, that is what you want. Man, can't beat that. Okay, so this mount is on. Okay, I think that's the best angle we're gonna get on this one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and I'll buzz these three loose, drop the engine down a little bit, then I'll be able to get this one out. Oh, of course. Can't get nothing on this thing. Came up with this idea. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Little by little. Okay, so I got this last mount out. had to go off camera because of my I had to readjust my straps. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and start yanking this thing out. Be careful, I got a fuel line over here I'm really close to. Clear that stuff, so